Dracula, pages 87 to 98. Dr. Seward's Diary. June 5th. The case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities that are very well developed, namely selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could understand, though, just what that purpose is. He seems to have some plan in mind, but what it is I do not know. One of his better qualities is the love of animals, although that love is such an odd sort that I sometimes think it is cruelty. Just now, his hobby is catching flies. He has so many that I have finally had to object. He did not break out into a fury as I expected, but took my objection quite calmly. He thought for a moment and then said, "May I have 3 days? I will get rid of them." Of course I agreed. I must watch him. June 18th. He has now begun collecting spiders and has got several big fellows in a box. He keeps feeding them his flies, which are shrinking in number, although he uses half his food to attract more flies from outside to his room. July 1st. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told him that he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, so I said that he could keep just a few. He cheerfully agreed, and I gave him another 3 days to carry out our agreement. He did something very disgusting while I was with him. A nasty blowfly, swollen with whatever garbage it had been eating, buzzed into the room. He caught it, held it triumphantly for a few moments between his finger and thumb, and then popped it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him, but he argued that the fly was very good and very wholesome, that it was strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. He seems to have some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook in which he is always writing. Whole pages of it are filled with columns of figures, generally single numbers added up in batches, and then the totals added in batches again, as though he were an accountant. July 8th. There is a method in his madness, and the little idea in my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon, and then I believe I will have a better clue about our friend Renfield. I kept away from him for a few days, so that I might notice if there were any changes. Things remain as they were, except he has parted with some of his pets, and now has a new one. It is a sparrow, and he has already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for he has fed it a number of his spiders. His remaining spiders are well fed, for he still brings in the flies by tempting them with his food. July 19th. We are making progress. My friend now has a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost gone. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a favor, a very, very great favor. His manner was so affectionate and exciting that he reminded me of a pet dog. I asked him what it was, and he said with rapture in his voice, "A kitten, a nice little sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed." I was not surprised by this request, for I had noticed how his pets had been increasing in size. But I didn't like the idea that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and spiders. So I said I would see about it, and asked him if he wouldn't rather have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness gave him away as he answered, "Oh yes, a cat would be better. I only asked for a kitten because I thought you might say no to a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they?" I realized my suspicion had been correct. I shook my head and said that it would not be possible now, but that I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it. There was a sudden fierce, sly look, which meant killing. I believe the man is an underdeveloped, homicidal maniac. I shall test him about the cat, then I shall know more. 10 p.m. I have visited him again, and found him sitting in a corner sulking. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees and begged me to let him have a cat, saying that his salvation depended upon it. I was firm, however, and told him that he could not have it. Without a word, he returned to his corner and sat down, gnawing his fingers. I shall see him early in the morning. July 20th. Visited Renfield very early, before the attendant made his rounds. Found him up and humming a tune. He was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved, on the window-sill. He was clearly beginning his fly-catching again. I looked around for his birds, but I saw none. I asked him where they were. He replied, without turning around, that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow was a drop of blood. I said nothing, but went and told the keeper to report to me if anything happened during the day. 11 a.m. The attendant has just come to say that Renfield has been very sick and has vomited a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, doctor, he said, that he has eaten his birds, that he just took and ate them raw. 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong drug tonight, enough to make him sleep, and then I took away his notebook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing about my brain is complete. My homicidal maniac is of the most unusual kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him and call him a zoophagous, life-eating, maniac. What he seemed to want is to absorb as many lives as he can. He gave many flies to one spider, and many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat the many birds. What would have been done to the cat? It is almost tempting to allow him to continue in order to see where it would lead. What might I discover from such an experiment? If I understand the secret of even one such mind, who knows what doors that understanding might open? How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do, within their own minds. I wonder, in his mind, how many smaller lives equal one man's life. Mina Murray's Journal, July 26th. I am anxious, and it comforts me to write my thoughts here. I am unhappy about Lucy and about Jonathan. I had not heard from Jonathan for some time, and was very concerned. But yesterday, dear Mr. Hawkins sent me a letter from him. It is only a line written at the Castle Dracula, and it says that he is starting for home. That is not like Jonathan. I do not understand it, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy has lately begun her old habit of walking in her sleep lately. Her mother has spoken to me about it, and we have decided that I will lock the door of our room every night. Mrs. Westenra is afraid that she might walk out along the edge of the cliffs and fall to her death. Lucy is to be married in the autumn, and she is already planning how her house is to be arranged. Her fiancé, Arthur Holmwood, is the only son of Lord Godalming, so one day he will be Lord Godalming himself. He is coming up here soon as he can leave London, for his father is not very well. I think dear Lucy is counting the moments till he comes. She wants to take him up on the churchyard cliff and show him the beauty of Whitby. I'm sure it is just the waiting for him that disturbs her. She will be all right when he arrives. July 27th. No news from Jonathan. I do wish that he would write, if it were only a single line. Late Lucy sleepwalks more than ever, and each night I am awakened by her moving about the room. Fortunately, the weather is so hot that she cannot get chilled. But still, the anxiety, along with being frequently awakened, is wearing me out, and I am getting nervous and wakeful myself. Arthur's father has become quite seriously ill, so he cannot come as soon as he had planned. Lucy is sad that she has to wait. August 3rd. Another week gone by, and no news from Jonathan, not even to Mr. Hawkins. Oh, I do hope he is not ill. He surely would have written. I look at that last letter of his, but somehow it does not satisfy me. It does not sound like him, and yet it is his writing. There is no mistake of that. Lucy has not walked much in her sleep the last week, but there is an odd concentration about her which I do not understand. Even in her sleep, she seems to be watching me. She tries the door, and finding it locked, wanders around the room searching for the key. August 6. Another 3 days and no news. The suspense is getting dreadful. If I only knew where to write to, or where to go, I would feel easier. But no one has heard a word of Jonathan since that last letter. I must pray to God for patience. Lucy seems more nervous than ever, but is otherwise well. Last night was very threatening, and the fishermen say that we are in for a storm. Today is a gray day, and as I write, the sun is hidden in thick clouds. Everything is gray except the green grass, which seems like emeralds among gray, earthy rock and gray clouds that hang over the gray sea. The sea is tumbling in over the sandy flats with a roar. The horizon is lost in a gray mist. Dark figures are on the beach here and there, sometimes half shrouded in the mist. The fishing boats are racing for home. Here comes old Mr. Swales. He is making straight for me, and I can see by the way he lifts his hat that he wants to talk. Later. I am amazed and touched by the change in the old man. When he sat down beside me, he said in a very gentle way, "I want to say something to you, miss." I could see he was uneasy, so I took his hand in mine and told him to go ahead. He said, "I'm afraid, my dearie, that I must have shocked you by the wicked things I've been saying about the dead. But I didn't mean them, and I want you to remember that when I'm gone. We old folks that have one foot in the grave, why, we don't much like to think of it, and we don't want to feel scared of it. That's why I've been making light of it, so to cheer up my own heart a bit. But, Lord love you, miss, I ain't afraid of dying, not a bit. Only I don't want to die if I can help it. My time must be near at hand now, for 100 years is too much for any man to expect. Some day soon, the angel of death will sound his trumpet for me. But don't you grieve, my dearie," for he saw that I was getting teary-eyed. "If I should come this very night, that'd be all right. After all, life is only a wishin' for something else, and death is all we can rightly expect. Maybe it's in that wind over there. Look, look," he cried suddenly. "There's something out there that sounds, and looks, and tastes, and smells like death. It's in the air. I feel it comin'. Lord, make me answer cheerful when my call comes." He held up his arms, and his mouth moved as though he were praying. After a few minutes' silence, he got up, shook hands with me, blessed me, and hobbled off. It all touched me, and upset me very much. I was glad when the coastal guard came along with his telescope under his arm. He stopped to talk with me, as he always does, but all the time kept looking out at sea. A strange ship was visible. "I can't figure her out," he said. "She's Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in the strangest way. She doesn't know where she wants to go. She seems to see the storm coming, but can't decide whether to run up north into the open sea or to put into harbor here. Look there again. She is steered mighty strange, for she changes about with every puff of wind. We'll hear more about her before this time tomorrow."